present the way you present your friend. I don't care.
I'm shy.
Okay, don't be in camera.
So this is my friend Laura Gonzalez, aka the Blue Witch, aka the High Priestess of the Goddess. We met, what was it, a year ago, I think?
Just
Almost
about.
exactly.
Mhm.
And when we met, it was magic, literally.
Yeah.
She wouldn't shut up, and neither would I. So we kept talking. We kept talking and talking about this, about that, and it was awesome. So I really appreciated her friendship and the words that she spoke and her knowledge and her wisdom. And since then, we've kept in communication and we've done events together. And I've invited her to participate in several other parties that I've had. And so I really enjoy her energy, and I thought that she would be a perfect match for what we're doing, which is Hijas de la Luna. So without further ado, I present to you Laura.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. It is amazing to see all the friendly faces that I see here because you are all my friends, and I appreciate very much your support. I'm also very subtle about shameless marketing, as you can see. I have many hats that I interchange. I'm a minister in training for Circle Sanctuary, which is the biggest pagan, neo-pagan Wiccan group church here in the United States. I'm also a priestess of the Goddess for the Fellowship of the Goddess, the Fraternity of the Goddess, I'm sorry. And we hive off from a group in Chihuahua, but I was recently told that we don't need to clarify that we are hiving off from Chihuahua. We are an international Fraternity of the Goddess, and so it is, which is wonderful. I've also been studying the Mesoamerican philosophies of our people. Most of us are Mexican American, or Latino, right? Okay, just making sure that when I say our people, I'm not offending anybody. So I've been learning the philosophies of the Mesoamerican peoples from, I don't know, I guess since I was born. But more so applying myself and being more consistent since 2012, I think. And I go by very many labels: priestess, shaman, walking the red path, minister, teacher, student. But I rather use the word witch because I really feel very, very comfortable with the word witch. And it's part of us being empowered and reclaiming a word that it was stripped away from us, the wise people. Especially, I will say woman, and by saying woman, I want everybody to know that I include every woman. Whether you were born with a vagina or not, if you are a woman, you're a woman, and that's all that matters. So when you hear me talking about masculine divine, the woman, the feminine divine, I want you all to know and to clarify, to make very, very clear, anything and everything, any person that identifies as femme, and any person that believes in the goddess is welcome, especially on the Fraternity of the Goddess, which is our group, but also in the goddess spirituality. We welcome all walks of life, and that's why part of the description of this talk was about, we welcome all walks of life. I don't care if the person was born with different piping, and that's fine. But you will hear me say feminine divine or feminine masculine, and then masculine energy and all that. But in our spiritual beliefs, when we say goddess, we are talking about everything, and I mean everything. Masculine, feminine, both, neither, non-descriptive, etc. So to start, when I was invited to do this, I was like a little child, and I was jumping up and down in happiness and that's what I posted today promoting this event. This is the intersection that I enjoy the most about the goddess, the corner between art and spirituality. It is a wonderful corner to be, and I'm already getting goosebumps, so the goddess is already agreeing with that. I'm also very happy to inform that 2 of the founding members of the Fraternity of the Goddess in Chicago are here. So thank you so much for your support, ladies. And And so without further ado, let us talk about the goddess. But before I start ranting for another 45 minutes, I would like to hear from people. When you hear the word goddess or when you hear the word feminine divine, what comes to mind? And there is no wrong answer, so don't be shy and just go ahead and say it. Or not.
Powerful energy.
Powerful energy.
Life source.
Yes. Anybody else? There's another person behind. Yeah, there's somebody else. Okay, I couldn't. Hi, person in the back that I can just see your shoulder. How are you? Yes, you. I couldn't see who you were. Okay. So yes, there is no wrong answer. The feminine divine is everything, and everything is the feminine divine. And in order to understand where this concept is coming back to us from, I have to also describe a little bit of myself and what I do. What I do comes from a reclaiming spirituality and a reconstruction spirituality that comes from Indo-European beliefs. So again, the colonizers, but this time actually with very, very good stuff. The remembrance and the emulation of the ancient pagan traditions of the feminine divine. And it all starts with the movement that begins like in the 50s to reconstruct and to reclaim the word of the goddess. The goddess has never been gone. She's been hiding, and she had to take very many different forms, and she had to wear some costumes in certain parts of the history, but she's always been and she will always be present. So what happens is Indo-European people start reclaiming their pagan customs and traditions, and that makes a jump into America. And then we have now the tradition of the goddess, or the religion of the goddess, or the spirituality of the goddess. And me being a pagan my whole life and studying the Mexica Tenochca ways since I was very, very young, it all resonated as coming from the same source. Of course, the goddess, coming from the feminine divine and coming from that balance that encompasses it all. So it's not that we are erasing the divine masculinity, and it's not that we are erasing man out of the picture. We are not here to cut men in half or whatever, or to hate him. We are here just to give a voice to something and some people that have lost their voice for a long, long time. Mainly, give or take, about 2018 years. And that coincides with other things. So my practice and what I teach is very amazing cauldron of amalgamation of Indo-European pagan traditions with the Mexica Tenochca traditions and Mexican folk magic, and then whatever I find in the corner, if I see the goddess within it, I grab it and it's mine. But to understand a little bit about the goddess and about how all this culture comes from, we're gonna take you way, way back to about, I Googled it this time, 13.7 billion years ago, when the universe was formed, when the Big Bang happened. And I wish Tali was here because that's exactly what she painted. The mythology of the goddess says that she existed, right? She was. And then at one point she took consciousness of self, and she decided to manifest herself. And my belief and the interpretation that I've heard from people that follow this path is that when she decided to manifest herself, to have the power of manifestation, it was boom, the Big Bang happened, and she is the universe, right? So the universe is the material manifestation of the divine. That is the goddess herself. And what else was created with that Big Bang? Everything. And I mean everything. Everything that exists was created with the Big Bang, and that energy of the explosion that happened 13.7 million years ago is still happening. It hasn't stopped. We all are still being thrown by the magnetic forces and the energy of the goddess when she decided to go boom, right, and create herself. So after we are created, or the universe is created, as I said, everything is created of that material. So all of us are stardust. There is a very controversial magician out there, Mr. Aleister Crowley, who has one salvable saying that I adore, and he said, and I quote, "Every man and every woman is a star," because we all are stars. We all are made of stardust. So in different religions and in different spiritualities, we go around calling each other and saying Namaste, Ashe, Aho, Tlasukamati, and we use all these phrases that literally mean we are one, I see you, I see the divine within you, but we have lost the context of those phrases. That is the context. We all truly are one because we all truly come from that explosion. Energy and the law of physics say nothing can be destroyed. Everything is transformed. We have transformation, and eventually our bodies cease to exist, but we exist and we continue to exist. Our energy can never be destroyed. It will just transform itself. So, of course, when you come to the consciousness that we all are one and we all are part of the universe and that we all are the goddess, you start seeing things from a different, very, very different light. Then it was Carl Sagan who said, our ancestors must not have been so mistaken when they saw the sun and the moon and the stars are gods and goddesses. Now, these are all Eurocentric, pagan, ancient beliefs, right? Let's bring it to this side of the world. Let's bring it to America. Our people, the Mexica Tenochca, the badly known as Aztec, they also believe in the divine sacredness of nature and that everything was within the cycles of nature. And that three of those divine sacred cycles of nature were actually depicted as feminine: Citlalinicue, Chalchutlicue, and Coatlicue, the three ladies with the skirts. Citlalinicue is the one with the star skirt, Chalchutlicue is the one with the jade skirt, and then Coatlicue is the one with the serpent skirt. And these are all badly named goddesses, right? The truth of the matter is our people, the Mexica Tenochca, didn't have a concept of religion, and they didn't have a concept of god and goddesses. However, they did have a concept of divinity and the feminine divine and the masculine divine also. And everything was balanced and everything was equal. And it wasn't until the established religions, the modern religions, I know it sounds weird to say modern religions, right? But the religions that are the Abrahamic religions, they're the modern ones. The old religions are the pagan ones, the old gods and the old goddesses. So in paganism, and pagan people, we believe on the ancient gods and goddesses, and in Native American beliefs, they don't call themselves pagans, and they don't like to be identified as pagans. However, their philosophy is very similar. And they don't like to be identified as pagans because it's not a religion and they don't have that concept of a divinity, because everything in nature is divine, and that makes a huge difference. So, is there any questions so far? Are there any questions so far? No? Everything's clear? Okay, cool. Either I'm boring you or I'm explaining very, very nicely. So when we talk about tradition, religion, and spirituality, there are different things, right? We have amazing traditions. For example, we just celebrated Day of the Dead, right? And there are people who say, oh, it's the same as Halloween, it's the same as Samhain. It's not, but that's a completely different talk for next year. The tradition is something that we do because it's historically recorded, right? We have seen people in the past doing it, so we follow the tradition. Uh, this is funny, haha, how traditionally a lot of Mexican people follow the tradition of loving and adoring and having the utmost respect and devotion for the Virgin of Guadalupe. And the tradition says you do it because it's a tradition. And the religion says it's a Catholic icon, right? But your devotion can say whatever you want it to say. Your spirituality is my favorite phrase. You guys are gonna laugh. You too. It's between you and the divine. It is always only between you and the divine. And the divine, usually we go like this, but the divine could be down there, and the divine is definitely out here. It's everywhere. And that's the main thing, and that's the most beautiful thing about the goddess and goddess spirituality for me, that everything is divine because we comprehend that everything is made of that she was made of. That manifestation that she gave us, everything is made of her. In Mexican tradition, a lot of people even call the Virgin of Guadalupe Tonantzin, right? And it's our great mother, right? Because that's what Tonantzin means, or Madrecita, or great mother. And little do they know, it's an icon that comes from before colonization. Don't quote me on this, please, because I don't know yet enough. But what I learned is that she was a representation of the energy of the sun, and that she was painted by an indigenous person. You take whatever version of the story that you want to take. If you think it was Juan Diego and she appeared in the tilma and all that, fantastic. I don't care how you believe she was born. What I want to talk about is how she's being revered. Because the goddess, the feminine divine, has taken many, many different forms. And I truly believe with all my heart that the Virgin of Guadalupe is one of them. I'm not a devotee, by the way, surprise, surprise, but I can see it, and I can see how people's devotion come through that icon because it represents the feminine divine. And I don't know how many of you are actually from Mexico. I am from Mexico. I grew up there and immigrated here 20 years ago. But in Mexico, you can have the worst of the worst rat of existence of person, and they believe one thing, and they believe in the divinity of the Guadalupe. And that is the feminine divine. That is the energy of the goddess. And a lot of people don't believe in Jesus, or they're not Catholic, or they're Catholic just because tradition, because they follow a tradition without thinking. But the devotion, the love, the miracles come from the Guadalupe. And the same happened on every other pagan religion, and it all happens to a lot of the goddesses throughout Europe. It's not only something that happened in Mexico, it happened everywhere. Goddess Bridget, the goddess of the wells and the waters in Ireland, she was like the greatest goddess on the pagan traditions of the Celtic and the Druid people, and now she became Saint Bridget. And now some people in Spain and some people in Latin America, Santa Brígida, and she's a goddess. So many of the goddesses had to wear a costume, and they had to be a little bit quiet, and they had to become camouflage and a little bit, I'm looking for a word here. It's not coming in English or Spanish, so yeah, they had to, I can think of the word. They had to camouflage themselves, to keep existing as the divine feminine. But with the tradition and the religion, there was also another tradition that was born in Mexico. The Mexica Tenochca people have healers everywhere. Almost everyone knew about Earth and the cycles of the moon and the cycles of the earth, and how to heal, and how to change your luck, and how to plant and when to harvest. Everyone was paying attention. our people were amazing mathematicians and scientists, and they pay attention to all the celestial bodies and how they move, and they knew how to measure time, and that is the goddess herself. And so when the colonizers came and they brought their illnesses and their mental limitations, they also brought superstition. And because they brought superstition, everything that a healer or a wise person did was deemed as witchcraft. And so the word witch and the word witchcraft and all of that became stigmatized. And of course, we became one of the most superstitious countries in the world. Because in a country when we all know that we all know, we all became afraid of each other. And that kind of separated us a little bit. However, thank goddess, there was a lot of people who were rebels and they didn't let go of that knowledge. And throughout the years and throughout the centuries, they have tried to quiet that voice and they have tried to minimize the wisdom of the feminine, and it's not going to happen. Here we are. I mean, Hijas de la Luna. What else can we aspire for? So, one of the first tenets of speaking about the goddess and the feminine divine is the biggest rebellion that females can have. Can you think about what's the biggest way to rebel?
Independence.
Okay, how do you, it has to be with independence, but independence of what, or from what?
From tradition.
Okay, getting warm. What is your biggest vehicle, your instrument?
Your time.
Your body. Your body. The biggest way to give it to the man, and I'm not gonna do gestures because we're recording, but you know, the best way to give it to the man is having autonomy of your body. The biggest way to honor the goddess, the greatest way to have goddess within you is with the freedom, the agency, and the autonomy of your body. Your body being the temple of the goddess, your body being made of what goddess decide to manifest, and your body being divine and beautiful at any size, any color, any shape, and with any pair of genitalia that you might have been born. If you are feminine divine, you are feminine divine, and that's what it is. So the biggest freedom and the biggest way to show sacredness and divinity is loving your body and respecting your body and having agency and autonomy of your body and deciding what you want or don't want to do with your body and with whom you're going to share and how many times, a week, a day, or an hour. And it is all divine. I will read you a poem later where it talks about the body and sexuality being divine. And of course, today talking about that feminine divine and that autonomy and looking at the art, I'm taken aback by every one of the artists, but of course I have to mention Teresa with sex and how it is so fantastic to see the inspiration of that freedom, you know, the freedom of being yourself and being divinely respected and respected first by yourself. Now there are people on the goddess tradition, and here I am taking inspiration from Phyllis Groth. You were there with me. When Phyllis Groth, who is one of the greatest, most known activists, openly, publicly Wiccan priestess and priestess of the goddess, who helped legalize the symbols for veterans' tombs and the pentacle and all that. If you want to know about it, I can send you the right way to get more information. But she was saying that in the 60s, when the movement of the goddess took more form and more strength here in the United States, everybody on the covenants and on the study groups decided to start calling each other a goddess. And so people were calling each other, you're a goddess, you're a goddess, you're a goddess. And she said that was a little over the top, and it was a little kind of like fake. And I have to agree, we are not goddesses. We are like the goddess, and we are made of the goddess. But we are also human. And we have to comprehend that as we are divine, we are also human. And we are put in this earth to have a human experience. We will be divine when the time comes. We are divine, we are part divine, but we are not the goddess. And I hope this is not misinterpreted. I hope it's well understood. Because I really get a twitch of the eye when I see people calling each other goddess. No, the goddess is the goddess, and we are goddess, like we are made of the goddess essence, but we are not her. She is out there somewhere, or within us too, of course. That being said, of course, that doesn't diminish the agency of our bodies, the divinity of our bodies, and I know I'm repeating myself, but because it's really, really important that we emphasize that the greatest way to have devotion, you don't have to be religious, you don't have to become pagan, you don't have to become Wiccan, you don't have to belong to a church, you don't have to, it's between you and the divine. I know you've heard me say this a million times. It's between you and the divine. But I think the biggest way to show devotion to the divine is loving yourself and loving your body, because that is where you are most goddess-like. And for those people who actually were born with masculine genitalia, I have news for you. Every fetus, every clump of cells that was created ever, every single one of them, until the 12th week is feminine. Every single being in this planet was feminine for the first 12 weeks of existence. And then things started changing, and ovaries drop, and the clitoris grows, and then they become something different, right? Or they're actually women, but they have a penis. That's a different talk. But anyway, we all have that information, and we all have that moment of being feminine divine, in the first 12 weeks of conception. So if that is not magic, I don't know what else is. But anyway, I was saying I am very, very honored to be here today and to talk about the virtues that this wonderful artist chose to represent today. And of course, the first one I think that we talk a little bit about is manifestation, right? So how can I connect with that part of me that is goddess-like that talks about manifestation? Well, I have a cheat sheet, and I have written a couple of goddesses' names or concepts from the Mexica Tenochca people. In order for us not to get confused, and because we're all used to call them goddesses, I will call them goddesses, and the Mexica Tenochca I will call Aztec, because that's how we are all used to know them and to call them. But please remember that the name of our people was the Mexica Tenochca people. I know it's further than saying Aztec. And that all these concepts of divinity, they were symbols and they were concepts of nature. And they were not actually goddesses that reclaim devotion or tribute, right? These were concepts that anybody could embody. But for all purposes and intents, I will call them goddesses and I will call them Aztecs, so we can all kind of like go more fluidly. I'm checking the time. So when we talk about the power of manifestation, which is the beautiful art of Tali right here on the wall, she really like read my mind. And was she looking at my notes? So the power of manifestation, we can ask a couple of goddesses. I'm going to give you the European pagan name of the goddess, and then I'm going to jump into like the American philosophy concept of manifestation. The first one is very dear and near to my heart, of course, because you who know me more personally know I'm a devotee of Goddess Fortuna. I actually never tell people good luck. I always tell people good fortune, best of fortune, because it's a blessing of Goddess Fortuna. And Goddess Fortuna, for those who speak Spanish, might understand fortuna, fortune. And she's a Roman goddess, and she's the manifestation of manifestation. She's the goddess of wealth and good fortune and money and business and growth. And she is wonderful, and she smiles at us most of the time. And like on the tarot cards, sometimes the Wheel of Fortune is running right side up, and sometimes when she turns around to teach us great, great lessons. There are moments where we are not so fortunate, and like my mom used to say, everybody speaks Spanish here, except you, I know you don't, but everybody else speaks Spanish? Well, my mom used to say, hay tiempos de vacas flacas y hay tiempos de vacas gordas, right? There's times when there's wealth, and there's times when there's scarcity, and it is when there's scarcity that we learn our lessons best, as in how to recognize our priorities and how to fight for them and how to manifest. So if you would like to connect with that part of yourself that is manifestation, I will say, taking a look, Googling, and just, asking or ask the divine. If you feel that you're prepared to do that kind of work, ask the divine goddess in her form of Fortuna to come to you and to give you some good advice. Now, in the Aztec tradition, I'm sorry, I need to have a little poison. Cheers. Hi, YouTube. So, in the Aztec tradition, of course, manifestation will be the earth, right? So we have Coatlicue, she who wears the serpent skirt. Yeah, I said it correctly. And Coatlicue is representing the, on the traditional Googling definition, you will see she's the mother of Huitzilopochtli, and she's the mother of Coyolxauhqui, and she's the mother earth, and she's Ortonatzin, and she's her great mother, and all of that. But in the newer philosophical interpretation of the name, Coatlicue, she who wears the skirt, the serpent skirt, is actually the electromagnetic vibration of the earth. And so without Coatlicue, without that covering of the electromagnetic vibes, I'm just gonna wait for that to get expected. Awesome, thank you. It's all right, as long as everybody's comfy. Okay, so Coatlicue represents that protection of the earth. Is the skirt that covers the air, right? The electromagnetic field that protects us from the UV rays of the sun. And that, without that, we wouldn't be here. We will be like Mars. We will be fried and red. So Coatlicue, with her skirt, serpent skirt, covers the earth. And what more manifestation than the actual earth and everything that lives. It was Scott Cunningham, a very well-known pagan who passed away too soon. He was too young. But he said a phrase, you want to see the divine, observe nature. That's where the divine is. That's where the goddess is. And of course, Coatlicue represents that. Another representation of the divine manifestation, according to the Aztecs, it will be Tlazolteotl. And Tlazolteotl is within every single one of us, except me. Well, I'm getting there. Do you cook? Have you ever cooked at home? Yes, no, maybe? Ooh, a lot of people don't cook in here. Awesome. All right. Every time we cook, every time we chop fruit, every time we use something, every time we reuse, for those who are artists or have an artistic incline, when you repurpose something, when you use something, when you take the last drop of that lemon juice and you squeeze it and squeeze it and squeeze it, when you don't let anything go to waste, you are being like Tlazolteotl. And I think that is the power of manifestation. Also, we Mexicans, I mean, the American society look at us when there is a recession because we know how to survive. Yes, because Mexico is full of Tlazolteotl. We all know how to take advantage of every resource that we have in our hands. So how do you connect with La Soltera? That when you are producing, when you're creating, when you are tending to your home. And in order to save time and to open for questions, I'm just going to talk about the 5 that are present. So the next one will be spirituality. Of course, I'm going to leave that for the end because that's my closing. And the next one is sex. We have a child here, so I will mind my manners. But if you have ever enjoyed, you don't have to tell me, just wink. If you have ever enjoyed that pleasure of being divinely alive with or without company, and I think I will leave it like that. Well, there is a manifestation of the divine because it is a divine moment when we are at that moment. You all know what I mean. How old is this child?
She's 10.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna leave it like So of course we have a European goddess that embodies all of that, and her name is Aphrodite, and she's the goddess of beauty and sex and everything that is enjoyable. But it's not only about sex, it's also about beauty. So anytime you look at your child's eyes and you see beauty, every time you see art on the walls and you see beauty, every time you see a performer, and if you're like me and start crying like a baby, that is Aphrodite within you. And that is the sensual essence of a person. And that is the goddess within you. When art moves you to tears, that is the goddess within you manifesting and coming out in the form of water. And here comes Sally. Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome. So the doing the jump into the Aztec concepts, we have Chantico, and Chantico represents the hearth, the heat, the sun energy within the home. So Chantico is that energy that makes you prepare yourself and look nice for your partner to come home. Chantico is that essence that help you cook that chili and make sure it's delicious and tasty and yummy. Chantico is that energy that take you to the lingerie store and buy the most sexy outfit that you can find, or not. If you feel sexy on pantuflas and a camisole, then that is Chantico too. And as I was saying earlier, let me reiterate, it doesn't have to be only if you are a female. Every person that walks this earth has that Chantico essence within them. Despite what kind of piping is out there. So we connect with Chantico because she is the sun in the house. She is the heat. She is the heart. And another goddess that she's pulling my hair here, and she won't let me go until I mention her, is Hestia. Hestia or Vesta in Greek and Roman tradition. And Hestia is also the heart and the heat and the cooking and the being nice and cachonda, you know what I mean? I'll explain what cachonda is. I think you got it. Okay. So we talk about manifestation, sorry, you missed it, copiona. Then we talk about sex, and then we talk about goddess, and of course we have been talking about goddess the whole time. So for goddess, I will say any manifestation we already established, right? Any manifestation of life, anything that is alive, anything that breathes, anything that moves is goddess. But also, what are the goddesses that call to me? What are the essences that call to me? And that I will say is a rhetoric question, of course. Go home and think. Who am I connecting with? Am I connecting with Guadalupe? Am I connecting with Bridget? Am I connecting with Kuan Yin? And why am I connecting with these goddesses? How is the feminine divine speaking to me? Is it speaking to me through my ancestors, to my abuelas and my bisabuelas? Or maybe am I being the goddess reference for the next generations to come? And what do they want? What do I want them to learn? I want them to learn autonomy of their body, because we already established that's the best way to honor the divine, right? And then we have, what's the other one? Energy. That's energy, right? Right here in the corner. So energy by Adrian. And for energy, of course, I say all of the goddesses are energy, and energy is everything. Look, it takes 1 joule of energy to do this. 1 joule. So when we wake up in the morning and we say, I don't have energy for anything, that's a lie. Okay? The amount of energy we have is our mass, so how many kilograms we are, multiplied by the speed of light squared. So a person of my mass that is 280 some pounds, soaking wet, even dry is 280. That multiplied by the energy of light squared. That's how much energy I have. So saying I don't have energy is a lie. How we prioritize that energy and what we create with that energy, that is the manifestation of the goddess. And that's why I put on my cheat sheet all, because all of the goddesses give us energy. Maybe one day I don't have energy to cook and be Chantico, but I want to be Aphrodite all day. Wink, wink. I said that joke wrong. Anyway, moving on. I have 5 minutes left before I start talking about spirituality, because that is my closing. So I want to open the floor for questions, comments, ideas, complaints. Please ask me questions. I love to answer questions. Yes, please.
I have a question. I have guys I connect with, but I looked up stuff and I didn't really find anything what I was looking for, just on the internet. It was a Siwakwako.
Siwakwa. Yeah.
Do you have any information on that?
Siwakwa. Which one is it? Quad is snake.
She's half woman, half snake, half serpent.
Yeah.
Feather serpent.
I will have to look it up. So do me a favor, catch me later, don't let me go, and I will find whatever I can find, because it sounds familiar, but I'm not sure what it is. And for those of you who look in Wikipedia for this kind of definitions of the Aztec goddesses and the Aztec names, believe half of it, okay? By the way, I cannot go without honoring the people who are learning the Red Path. It's a couple of blocks from here. It's called Machtia Toltecayo, and they teach amazing classes on the Mexica ways and philosophy. Any more questions? Please remind me, okay? Anybody else? Another question? Complaints? Ideas?
I love it.
You love it?
Everything you said.
I love you too. I love please ask me questions. Even if you think this is a stupid question, ask it, please. No? All right. Then I guess I'm gonna close earlier than I believe. But because you're gonna love it. So the last part that we were gonna talk about was spirituality. And I love what Jackie had made in there. And can I share a little bit of what we talked about earlier? So I was telling Jackie that for me, the one painting on the bottom, or the piece of art on the bottom, it talks about the darkness. And as I was saying earlier, it is in darkness when we find the light on the best way. If we don't go deep into our darkness, we are not going to be appreciative of everything that is light. And that is the goddess too. We talk about Fortuna, when Fortuna turns around, right? If it's not until we are on the darkest place that we learn to appreciate the light. And then Jackie was saying, you need to hit rock bottom in order to go back up. And then on the next painting, what I saw was the emanations of the goddess coming from the darkness. That's what I saw. But her explanation was rebirth from the darkness into the divinity and rising up into the purple colors of the divine. And then the last painting on top, of course, is her eye. She's got a beautiful green eye, so that's the no-brainer. That was her eye. But I love the detail underneath it because she's got the cycles of the moon. And as I said earlier, our people, the Mexica Tenochca, and all the ancient peoples of the world, all of those people who were pagan, what is the most sacred and what is the most divine is nature, and is the body, and is the body and nature. And it seems like the whole world is going back to that. And you know what? I applaud that. I am very happy. The earth is going to continue whether we're standing on it or not. So, for those of you who have given birth, it's really important that we take care of the earth, that we take care of the goddess. The earth, and I don't want to, sometimes I say I don't want to get political, but you cannot have an act in life where it's not political. I'm not going to tell you about who to vote or anything. Anyway, elections just passed. But the earth, I think because it's a feminine symbol, is being treated as feminine, disposable. And she is not disposable. So it's up to us, and it's up to us to save it and to make sure that we have a home for the next 50 years. But anyway, when I said I was going to close with spirituality and how I see spirituality represented, where is it? Okay. So, of course, all of the goddesses are spirit. So here I'm going to talk about that intersection that I told you earlier that I love about art and spirituality. We started this talk talking about how the goddess decided to manifest herself, right? She existed, she had consciousness, but she was not manifested. There was no material way to connect with her. And then she materialized herself with the Big Bang, and now she's matter. So the goddess' main goal is creation. Her main activity is to create. I'm going to try to keep it together, because every time I say this, I cry. When the goddess decides to manifest, she creates. When I see all of you who are artists, and I see your creations, I see the goddess within you, within you, within you, within all of you who are artists. And you can be an artist with a piece on these walls, or you can be an artist at home, cooking that chili, or you can be an artist dyeing your hair in many different colors, or you can be an artist in many ways, by writing, by reading, by singing, by dancing. Art has many forms, because creation has many forms, because creation is goddess. So what I tell people is, you might see goddess as a concept, foreign and away from you, but it really is my honor to be among artists and creation, because when I am among artists and creation, I see goddess incarnated in all of you. Thank you.